Okay, so we were looking at this piece of land, and obviously the first thing to do would be to redo the roof. The roof's slightly fallen in, the woodwork's still in quite good condition. Put some new tin on there for a minute, and then build an animal shelter here on it as a lean-to structure, as a post and beam structure on a concrete pad. Now that will straight away give us some water harvesting surface, as we have got here, which you'll see in the video about that design, how the water harvesting is managed on that piece of land. And the idea is to keep this well filled up with water. This well, as it stands at the moment, I haven't managed to measure to the bottom of it, but the water is 9 meters from the surface. And I've put my suspended pump in at 150 below the surface, so it's at 10 meters below the surface of water, so that's 10 meters 50 from the surface of the soil. And every day I can plug in that pump and I can pull out 2 cubic meters of water, which is enough to keep everything watered during a heat wave. What I want to do is really put myself in relationship with the water table and make sure that that well stays filled up with good clean water. So we're going to be doing lots of swaling across the land and water harvesting. So let's go on to the water side of the design before we look at the rest of it. Obviously, before applying any pattern, the main denominator will be water. Water is the conducting vector for life, and you need the water in the land. And obviously, water runs downhill. You can't get it to go uphill for free. So do the water course and then fit the rest of the design in around it. Now here, as high up as I can get on the land, the road runs level with the land. The land rises up a little bit, and here there is a point where the road runs level with the land, so there would be possibility of digging a swale here and catching all the runoff from the water on the road from the top of the hill, even though it would be a bit polluted. Once we get it into a swale and into a healthy live soil system, that would sort out the few pollutants that there would be washed off the road. There is a phenomenal amount of water that runs down this road when it rains heavily, so we could catch some of it here and get it into the land to resist against the longer and longer droughts that we seem to be suffering from. Obviously, the roof of the house that's already there, plus the roof of the cowshed, will give us some water harvesting, plus the little concrete pad that we put the cowshed on, and then can dig in between a pond and a lake, a very big pond. Actually, the legislation here says that if you dig a pond over 100 square meters in surface area, then you need permission for it. So that'll be a 99 square meter pond. Okay, and another one here as well. Now this one will catch the water runoff from these two roofs, stopping in a few water troughs and obviously in a few water containers on the way to have some water on hand, and then probably a little solar pump in the pond to be able to pump water out of the pond into a water trough during the hot days for the big animals to be able to drink. And then as that will be built up, as the soil that's pulled out of the hole to make the pond will be built up around it, so there'll be a little bit of a rise, a little bit of a berm coming up before we get to the water course. Then we'll have a pipe running out underground into a swale as high up on the land as I can possibly get it. And obviously these two swales will become foundations for hedgerows within the design. Here we've got this pond here that's already been dug, and the continuation of the swale that's already on our already acquired piece of land, just continue it out onto the land a little bit. And it will also change the design. We'll come to that on the next page. Here further down, instead of running, obviously in the association, in the function hall of the association, there will be a lot of cooking going on for people coming to do training courses of all kinds, to do all the activities, and food. We will be based around good quality food. That is part of what our ethic is about. So there'll be quite a lot of cooking going on, quite a lot of washing up, quite a lot of good homemade, well, not homemade, but artisan made beer being drunk as well. So a lot of glasses to wash, and all of that will be coming out into a grey water system, plus the bioclimatic greenhouse and the dry toilets, which will be stuck onto this building. There'll be some runoff from there, which will have to go round the grey water, the same as we've done on the design on the other side of the road. And all this excess water, I'll put that in a pipe and then down into another 99 square meter size pond. That pond fitted with two backfilling swales either side, which will again be the foundations of some hedgerows. So that, as far as it goes, we've got no spring, we've got a well that we want to keep filled up, and we've got as efficient as possible in rainwater harvesting and getting all excess rainwater into the land as widely as possible and keeping that water table nice and full up for the dry seasons. Okay, on to the next stage of the design. Around those watercourses, we want to make that permanent run. Okay, so it's a lot simpler. It's actually coming back to the original vision that I had of that central alley, except it will be wide enough to take a tractor if necessary. If I do need to get in there with a tractor, so as I start drawing this out on the land, I'll get the neighbour to come in with his tractor and just drive in and make sure that he can get into all the future fields with his tractor before I fence it off. And then I'm going to fence it off with posts and isolators and a permanent electric fence. That will be 4 strands of electric fencing. There's 600 meters of fencing to do, so that's 2,400 meters of fencing wire, of electric fencing wire to buy, a very sturdy electric fence kit, and about 300 fence posts, which I'll be cutting up in the coppice at the top of the hill. So that's the run. And we'll be able to divide this up. We've got a bit of space here around the buildings, some workspace. We've got the pond at the bottom. It makes a loop, okay, so if the cows start chasing each other, they can chase each other around. And in this design, we will only be putting 2 cows, okay, we won't be putting any more. Don't want to strain the land. See how it goes with 2 cows. That's part of the project as well, is to see what we can do with this pattern. And if I find that there's more grass than I know what to do with, I'll bring in a horse as well, because I quite like to have a working horse with a little cart that runs behind it. So when it's apple season and I've got loads of apples to go and collect, well, I can take the cart, park it near the apple trees, fill it up, and when it's full I can go and get the horse to bring me the apples in, etc, etc. So that's the run, and it branches off, so I'm minimizing the run, minimizing the access space to maximize the field space. Just like in the vegetable garden, paths are a necessary evil. So we've got that down into something that looks like a leaf pattern. It's still very blocky, but that's because the piece of land itself is a block, and to get the pattern to fit in there nicely, I've needed to make it into blocks, and that is the block pattern that it will look like once it's finished. So we had that run, that permanent run, and each time we cut a track, that track is now opening up onto 4 gates, not 2. Okay, and this one as well, 4 gates. So it's not 4 gates on the same post, it's 2 posts with 2 gates on it, 2 gates each, and it's a dead end. Okay, so the cows can come in, they can graze all of this and 1 park, and these parks will be in between 500 and 600 square meters each. Some of them very long and thin, and the rest of them all squares. Okay, and then here again some very long thin ones, and here this sort of branching out rays of the sun kind of design around the pond. It's just to make it as efficient as possible. So there you go. We've got the pattern, we've got the process, we've got the development process, and at the end of it I worked out we can fit in 160 trees in there. Okay, so I've already drawn those in, and I've numbered most of them. There are certain problems. We'll go back to here because it's clearer. For example, this is the south side of the project, so we'll be starting at the north side. The chicken caterpillars will be starting their work down here, and down here I'll be putting in indigenous forest species. Okay, that'll be oak, chestnut, beech. And as we come forwards, I'll be putting lime trees in, and lots of trees that are going to give me lots of leaves, because I've still got all this gardening going on this side, and I'm going to be needing to mulch all this and keep that biomass levels high. So I want some real leaf producing trees here as well. I'm not going to put many chestnuts in. Chestnut leaves aren't the best for mulching. They've always got the bloody chestnut cases in them, which are quite prickly, and even a year later when you're rummaging around in your mulch to plant things, you end up with little spikes in your fingers. It's not very nice. As we come forwards, then it will be productive trees. The hedge all along this side, because the neighbour does do the veal calf raising thing. I won't be planting any apple trees or any fruit trees on the border, because I don't want to provoke any accusations of health problems with his cows. If his cows choke on an apple, there'll be problems. Just going to put hazelnut all the way along the edge. Okay, hazelnut along the edge, and then I'm just going to group these crosses. Most of this will be, there'll be a bit of walnut here in this alley here, and then most of round the central run, okay, most of that will be hazelnut, with obviously blackthorn in between to make nice good stock hedging. In the crosses within these parcels, I'll be doing monoculture of certain type of fruit. So this one here, apples, this one here, pears, this one here, peaches, this one here, plums, up here, apricots, etc., etc. That means that when I get to picking season, I can decide not to put the cows in that section here so that the cows don't go and eat the apples. First of all, I don't want them to choke on the apples, and secondly, I don't want them to eat the apples. I want to harvest the apples. So when we get to that delicate point where you don't want the cows scratching their asses on the trunks of the trees and making all the fruit fall off the trees and then trampling it into the ground, well, that means that we can work out the timing and make sure that they don't go in these sectors while the fruit's ripe on the trees. I think that's it. It's quite a hell of a project. I never ever thought I'd get this far with it, and it's now just about to become a reality. And already what we've done with our little garden on our side and the design we've put in, the work we've done on the house, you can see all that. I'll put the link up there again. That's my website. You can see quite a lot of the work we've already done. As I said, sorry, most of it's in French, but photos are universal on language. And I hope that's appealing. And we'll come to a smaller video later on because we are going to talk about a public financing campaign. And anybody that wants to invest a little bit of money into a Kiss Kiss Bank Bank loan to be able to help us start this up, we're going to be looking for about €20,000 to buy the land and build the first load of chicken tractors, chicken caterpillars, sorry, and get this up and running nice and smoothly. The plan is to run the chicken caterpillars, potatoes, leeks, beans and peas for the first 2 years. We'll be producing the first year, economically speaking, with one chicken caterpillar, we should bring in €3,000. The €3,000 from that chicken caterpillar, because we don't need this money to live. We're already living very comfortably with the work that we're doing and with the garden that we've got. We've balanced our resources and our economics needs to a point where we're comfortable. So this is just extra. The €3,000 all get reinvested back in to make another chicken caterpillar, and then to start planting up and putting in. And the idea is that the third year, okay, by the time we get to 2020, that central run will be all fenced off, and then we can buy all the electric fencing that we need to put in the sheep, to put in the extra groups of chickens, and especially to put in the 2 cows, and start learning about how to do dairy work, how to make cheese, how to make butter, how to milk the cows. We know how to milk a cow already, and just to start living that, and then work out the economics of it, and then tally it all up, and after about 5 years to present a new economic permaculture model for the Limousin based on this very, very small farm. I'm predicting that we can probably bring in about €16,000 a year, and that's a very, very conservative estimate, and that's not selling any of the milk products, because transforming the milk products requires setting up a laboratory which needs all sorts of tiles and tiled floors and high resistance stuff, and you need to have a lot more cows to justify the expense. So the milk will be absorbed personally between us and between our neighbours and friends, but vegetables, chicken meat, duck meat, fruit and nuts, all of that will be for sale. Eggs as well, abundance of eggs, and we will see what we can produce economically using no oil. There you go. Hope that's been fun and exciting for you, and any comments are very welcome on YouTube. Thanks very much. Have a good day.